Welcome to tonight's webcast. I'm here with at least my favorite biochemist. I think they're favorite too.
Yeah, let's hope, right?
It's always fun when you
It's always good.
get Dr. Shayne and myself together because you never know what you're going to get, but I know this, you're going to get some amazing information. So stay tuned, and I promise you this too, information you've never heard before, because we're going to kind of biohack into your hormones tonight. And the big request actually that we got from your team mostly was, okay, we're dealing with our hormones upstream with TCD, and we get that, right? But as you know, it takes time, to clear toxins off the cell, get your hormones better. And we want some biohacks from Dr. Pompa and Shayne about what to do.
Yeah.
Honestly, about what to do with our hormones. How do we balance hormones? How do we support hormones? Let's talk about our tips and tricks and how we do that along with TCD while you're detoxing.
Yeah, and let me remind you, TCD is a combination of products, right? You got the prep phase, the body phase, and the brain phase, among other like cytodetox things that people are going through. That collectively is considered what we call TCD, right?
Yep.
And of course, one of the challenges that we also face during a detoxification process that includes the hormonal issues is most often I would think that people are in a particular dietary intervention simultaneous to a detoxification process.
When they look at the portal of the True Cellular Detox, the diet, there's three basic changes that we say, look, everybody needs to make these, right? And these are exchanges, actually, because we didn't want to tell you to change anything without exchanging anything. So it was exchanging grains for ancient grains, healthier grains. It was exchanging, sugars for, other better alternatives. And, so that's in the portal. And then we have an advanced section where we talk about things like ketosis, fasting, intermittent fasting. But one of the big points that you had said, and I have been saying for many years as well, everybody has their camp on their diet, right?
Yeah.
There's vegans, there's vegetarians, there's ketosis people, paleo people, and you can keep going. There's actually a carnivore
Mediterranean people,
diet, right?
carnivore,
plant-based and everything. And I'm going to say right now, both of us are a fan of every one of those diets. Here's what we're both not a fan of: staying in any one of those diets too long. So I am against a vegan diet long-term. I've watched many people get sick. I'm against a paleo diet long-term. Ketosis, long-term. I don't believe our genes and genetics are set up to stay in any diet too long. And it creates problems. So I'll say this, to support your hormones while you're detoxing, diet is key, but let's have this dietary conversation because we're going to tick some people off. That's my diet.
And I'm with you. We have to move that diet around, and we have to move it around both for the benefit of our genetics and our microbiome, but also through the times of the year. Right, your body is adapted to things at different times of year, especially given your ancient DNA or the DNA that you got from your ancestors, right? Whether you're northern or southern or
absolutely. I actually read a study. You'll enjoy this one, and I think you will as well. There's a lot when you change your diet, you force adaptation. Your body has to adapt. One of the ways it adapts, and there's many, right? Hormonally, I believe it creates a hormone optimization when you actually change your diet, and that's why when people change their diet, they go, okay, I went vegan, I feel so much better. Of course, coming off of any standard American diet and changing it, you're going to feel better.
Yeah, hopefully you're going to feel better.
Exactly. But a lot of that's hormone optimization that occurs. But also another adaptation that occurs is the microbiome changes when you change diet.
Absolutely.
And so this study was talking about that, is like every time you make a dietary shift, you're forcing the microbiome to adapt. And they were talking about why that is so good.
That's right.
It creates new stem cells, which heal inflammation. It downregulates inflammation just, generally, and it helps with dysbiosis. And they listed a lot of different
And one of the phenomenon that let's pick on keto diet, not pick on it in a bad way, but keto diets were long ago used for epileptic issues, correct?
Early 1900s.
And other neurological issues. You fast forward to today, and people are still using it in that world, but now everybody's using the keto diet for other reasons, things they might want to lose weight, weight adaptation and so on. There was a recent publication where they looked at a ketogenic diet and epileptic patients And what they did is they found, in animals at least, that if they monitor the microbiome was the mechanism by which the epileptic stopped, the seizures stopped.
Interesting.
When they took out a certain number of bacteria, the seizures continued even on the ketogenic diet.
Yeah.
When they reintroduced those bacteria, they stopped. So at least in animals, they can show that there is a microbiome component to the success of that diet.
Yeah,
and that's going to be true in other areas where you're right, when you first jump into a diet, the body adapts, the microbiome adapts, and you get that shift in the microbiome, which helps you for a while. And one of the reasons is some of those organisms started producing a lot of GABA, by the way, and that's kind of the link that they made.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating that it's connected.
The best example I can give y'all to understand this is exercise. When you start a new exercise program, you have all these results, right? And you go, oh my gosh, this is great. But if you continue to do the exact same exercise, you literally plateau. And oftentimes you actually start going the other direction. Then you go to a new gym, or you're up at 1 o'clock in the morning, you shouldn't be, and you get the new thing, right? The new exercise, and you start doing something new. Maybe it's TRX, who knows? You start doing something new is the point. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this is the best. Because was it the new pieces of equipment, or was it just you changed something? The fact is,
a nice change.
It's the change, right?
Nice
so,
change.
When you make a change, you create a new adaptation. When I used to switch gyms and use other equipment, the next day, I'd do the same movements. I'd feel sore. I'd be like, okay, my body now has to adapt.
Sore is good, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you get that your body. You can feel your body adapting. The point is anytime you force your body to adapt and it adapts, it's a positive thing. And your bacteria, they're adapting to survive, and they get better, they get stronger, and it helps you ultimately. So.
Yeah, but you're right. If you stay on that track for too long,
right,
you run into trouble again, and you have to redo it.
So we'll leave you with this. In switching your diet around, don't buy into one diet. One of the worst things that we in wealthy cultures do is we have the ability to stay on one diet all the time. The same 8 foods. By the way, that most of us eat 8 foods. I mean, you know how bad that is for your microbiome and just generally? But I change my diet. He said seasonally is probably the easiest way to kind of, what's in season. That's an easy way to do it. Because I travel so much, I change my diet even more often than that. I'll be in ketosis for a couple months and then purposely not for a few months. It's easier when I'm traveling, not to be. But I'm constantly changing my diet at different times. Yeah. And so one of the things that you had said is, it's good to hear, women oftentimes struggle in certain diets. Ketosis being one of them. Intermittent fasting sometimes doesn't help. And I did my last seminar, I did a lecture on that, explaining why that is and why diet variation is even more important for women hormonally, even than men, when you're doing low carb. Well, let's not even just pick on keto. We picked on keto now. But low carb in general, there's a few reasons why. You can share one of yours. I'll share this. Certain times of the month, ladies, you will crave carbohydrates, chocolate, whatever it is. There's a good reason for that, because certain hormone conversions, you actually need insulin to make those conversions, and one of which is thyroid hormone. So going from T4, which is an inactive form of thyroid hormone, to an active form that helps you burn fat, energy, feel good, have energy, that conversion, you actually need insulin. And even estrogen, insulin in many of these hormonal pathways is really important. So when you're low carb too long, you can actually, if you're already at a certain age, having trouble making some of those conversions, when your insulin gets lower yet, now you really struggle to make those conversions. And guess what? In a low carb or ketosis, fasting, intermittent fasting, you are going to struggle. So therefore, times of higher carbs, to remind your body to utilize pop the insulin up, you can start making those hormone conversions. And one of those times that I suggest is, when do you get those cravings? Is it the week before your period, the week of your period? Yeah, take 5 to 7 days and go high carb. Listen, stay healthy carbs, whether it's potatoes, sweet potatoes, yams, higher fruit, whatever it is. But listen to your body. And then, ladies, even 1 or 2 days a week eating higher healthy carbs if you're on a low carb diet, it's magic. It reminds your body it's not in a starving state, and your body will start burning fat again, and you'll have more energy. So diet variation, weekly, monthly, and seasonally, I recommend for everybody, honestly, but ladies, especially you.
Yeah, and especially during that hormonal time, because what is the body prepping to do, right? The body's prepping to potentially become the carrier of a new a new human, right?
Yeah.
It's that preparation point.
Yes.
So from my standpoint, and it's a little more biochemical for you guys, but the other angle to this that follows suit with the insulin piece is there's something inside your cell called a peroxisome, and it's made by the endoplasmic reticulum. And the peroxisome is where all the beta oxidation takes place.
Don't you just love
right?
him? I just love him, man.
So
when he talks
beta
like this.
oxidation
You turn me on,
is the breaking down of fats. And so what is the busiest little subcellular molecule while we're in ketosis? The peroxisome. It's busy breaking down fats. It's busy making sure the ketones are being produced and the beta-hydroxybutyrate is being produced, as well as the acetates and the acetyl-CoA and all those things.
What you need for energy.
You need all those for energy. Well, when you're in that position and the body's trying to store fat and do other things in preparation, right? So it's trying to mobilize fat, because one of the best energy sources for all of pregnancy, when you get pregnant, is fat, right?
Yep,
Not
that's right.
sugar. So when you're in ketosis and the body's trying to say, wait a second, you're burning all the fat, I'm trying to store fat, and I'm still trying to go through my hormonal cycle, then you're putting a lot of stress on those cellular mechanisms. And they're going to give up. There's a priority principle.
Absolutely.
They're going to sacrifice somewhere else, and some of that somewhere else is going to be maybe feeding the hormones that just make you feel good.
Yeah,
Making
awesome.
GABA or making dopamine, because they're busy trying to figure out how to get the insulin and the other things taken care of. So that is another reason why being too long in a fat burning mode is tough for women.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the tip is for hormonal support, diet variation is key, I believe, for everybody, and ladies, for you. By the way, I'm going to have to do a shameless plug here. If you haven't got my book yet, Beyond Fasting, chapter 4 and 5 deal with that topic. So I have all those variation strategies. I even have dietary strategies, all the tips and tricks hormonally. So Beyond Fasting, there you go. Anyways, you haven't even read it yet. So actually, technically, as this filming goes right now, it's actually not out. It's out at my seminar. So, so in his defense, it will be released at the seminar.
And that brings us back to why we're here today.
Yeah.
And when you look at the processes we just described, diet is one element, but the other most important element is nutrition.
Yep.
During those same times, because that's where people understand. I think people are gathering the idea of the diet intervention pieces. Diet variation is a new thing for them, but what they don't get is that you're burning critical nutrients to stay in any diet and to even maintain a diet, because those nutrients don't exist in the food you're taking now.
That's right.
Right? And when you're narrow-minded, when you're on a single path for a while, you're lacking all these things that drive all these things that we described.
Great.
And what happens is that as that nutrition gets depleted, we start running into consequences.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so nutrients provided through herbs and vitamins and minerals are critical during some of these times.
Another reason to change the diet, weekly, monthly, seasonally. Yeah, and then, obviously we have a lot of nutrients, and we're giving you some of our biohacks that we feel go fantastic with the True Cellular Detox. Oftentimes, Shayne, we get the question, well, if the adrenals are so important for supporting detox and hormones, why don't you put the adrenals in there? If the thyroid is the canary in the coal mine and neurotoxins affect the thyroid, why isn't thyroid in there? And I can keep going, right? And going. So the bottom line is, we couldn't make the pills this big. Shayne tried.
Or the boxes this big.
And the packets this big, right? Yeah. They'd be over your back. Yeah, you get the point. All right, so there's some things here that are in True Cellular Detox, but I just felt mentioning, right? The Vista, the membrane is where the hormone receptors are.
As well as it makes up almost 50% of the cell is the peroxisome stuff. So
huge.
Membrane,
right.
no question.
I just interviewed another scientist, and he talked about the mitochondria as being key. We think of it as the energy, but it's key hormonally. And he went on and on to talk about that, right? And basically even every toxin actually has to go through the mitochondria. Like you think of the liver as this toxic thing, but the mitochondria, he explained, is really important for all this. But so just so you know, these are in obviously the True Cellular Detox, but some people benefit from more. So, this is a little biohack that myself and my doctors have come up with. And oftentimes, this is supporting the outer membrane. This one is supporting more of the inner membranes. So if you feel someone needs more mitochondrial support, endoplasmic reticulum support, then give more maybe of this one.
For sure.
You know, absolutely. So Vista One, double it up. Do one of each pill in here. There's 2 different types of pill in here. Add it to the program. So that's my biohack. You give one.
Here's one from the women's standpoint. Remember, we talked about it being critical for women. Look at we have both FPMS and Femicrine. We also have an additional formula called F+. And these 3 formulas used during a TCD and dietary intervention challenge, these come into play, and you can cycle these like FPMS you would want to do at the same time you're increasing carbs, right? As you feel the PMS coming on, that's when this gets
that's an amazing biohack right there.
And then this one, Femicrine, this is a newer product. This one has all of the plant-based enzymatic inhibitors that prevent good hormones from being converted into bad hormones. We know all about the estrogen byproducts, right? We know all about the testosterone byproducts, et cetera. I even recommend this to men that have trouble with testosterone being converted to dehydroxy or the aromatase, right? That converts it back to estrogen and so on.
Yeah.
Femicrine is critical to slow down those pathways that send hormones into different directions during the different cycles of the month.
What he means by that, men, is we don't want our testosterone going to estrogen. We become a little more ladylike. And if you find yourself crying over every... No, I'm kidding.
Femicrine
does work for
and MPC work good there. But for women, these 2 and F+ is the female biohack while you're detoxing as well.
Yep. Yeah, and in some of those, by the way, these 2 here, I think are just game changers for hormones. I remember when you were creating this product, and I had some insights on it with you, and one of the things we did is also support the receptors, as well, because again, it's not just throwing hormones down at someone, meaning giving them progesterone, estrogen. There's many different places that need supported. I remember showing you the 24-hour urine test, saying, here's where we see constant issues with women and their hormones. And you looking at those pathways and creating specific ingredients in here to help with those pathways. So
yeah, it takes the place of having to throw a hormone at them, because this helps you maintain the hormone profile you have so they don't get degraded. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, anyways, Moore's, it's matter of fact, it's in every phase. It's that important for hormones. But oftentimes, once you start into the body phase, you're talking about 1 pill, I believe. I think that is what it is. Yeah. Some people, we give it 1 extra pill. So again, you could biohack by giving them a little extra Moore's. And some people will really love that extra, their body
and
anyway.
Moore's can set you up for the biohack that I think you were getting ready to jump onto, and that is the GF TMI biohack. Moore's, remember, has all the selenium. Has the selenium.
Selenium-methionine, active form.
Yep, set you up for this one.
Which is critical, right? Yeah. So, to Shayne's point, I said the thyroid is the canary in the coal mine. I don't know that I've ever met a neurotoxic individual that doesn't have some thyroid strain. Even if the blood works normal, you start seeing the thinning hair, the trouble losing fat. Obviously, it affects your energy as well. Dry skin. I mean, I can start talking about all those symptoms, even constipation, by the way. So the thyroid is, in fact, the canary in the coal mine, meaning, I use that term, and I've had many younger people go, like, what do you mean by that? So,
I almost need a different analogy.
So let me explain it. And literally, before we had sophisticated equipment and mines, in literally minutes, certain chemicals can be released into a mine, and you die. And they had a canary in the coal mine because they're so sensitive, thyroid, and they would die first. And they literally, after the canary would die, they had so much time to get out, otherwise they're dead. Yeah. So that's the canary in the coal mine analogy. Did I do a good job on that?
Yeah, that's great.
All right.
Yeah, we need to find a modern day version of that.
I know, because when I say that, people are always like, what does that mean? Yeah. Anyway, so your thyroid's very sensitive. It's one of the first place to get hit. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But the bottom line is giving extra support here. All those symptoms that I just shared, you can really help. Iodine, I'll let you speak more to it, but in most people it's missing. And you need iodine to make thyroid hormone. GF we've used for many, many years, where there's RNA, DNA factor support for the thyroid gland itself, as well as still an herbal component to support the thyroid. But again, all that to say, without iodine, you're dead in the water. And back probably when Doc developed this, iodine wasn't as deficient even then
It's true.
as it is now. So
It's true.
this combination and any detox is very, very important. But
Yeah.
talk a little more about iodine.
Yeah, so in
because
the in the early 20th century, iodine, you're right, it was more prevalent in, one, you had access to fish and things, and the fish were healthier, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But you also, they started that campaign of iodized salt back then.
Yep.
Well, that's now gone because we've now moved on to healthier salts that come from more natural sources, not just mined out of the earth and then added iodine to. However,
they don't have iodine.
They don't have iodine in them. So now, unless you have a really healthy diet of something from the ocean, a marine diet, whether it be the seaweeds from the marine life, or fish, or even if you're up north and you eat whale blubber, you're not getting your iodine anymore.
Yeah.
And that's clearly getting worse and worse, even in modernized countries. So, and then that's the first part. The second part is iodine is critical for, the thyroid metabolic hormones are huge, right? T3, T4. They all have iodine incorporated in them too. So that's the halogen that gets included. So what else conflicts with halogens in our world?
Fluoride,
Right?
chlorine.
Yeah, exactly.
All of those things.
So we're in competition with iodine all the time.
Right.
So we have to add
So
iodine
not only
back.
is it not in the food chain, it's not in the salt, and then we have all this modern day competition.
That's right.
So what you just described is why it's an epidemic.
That's right.
Of one of the, I talked about the 5 nutrient,
Right.
Most micronutrients we have plenty of, but there are 5.
Yeah.
Vitamin D being one of them, K2 being another one,
Right.
iodine, magnesium,
Yeah.
anyways, and oftentimes B12 because of the gut.
Right.
So anyways, those are like the big 5 deficiencies, but I would say iodine leads the way, and hormonally it's massively important.
And you can't make T3, T4 without it. If
can't.
you incorporate fluorine or chlorine in place of that, you've made really a dead hormone. The hormone's dead at
Absolutely.
that point.
There's
So-
another, from a detox standpoint, why iodine is a really good addition to TCD is because iodine, when you start taking it, a lot of things like mercury, the thyroid receptors use a selenium as part of the receptor to actually attract hormones. And so this selenium receptor, guess what else it attracts? Mercury. And so mercury makes its way, and it's one of the reasons it's hypothesized why mercury has such a massive effect on the thyroid receptors, the thyroid gland, is because of the selenium combination. But here's what happens. When you're taking iodine, you're kicking off the mercury, and I'm sure other toxins as well that would be attracted there, off of the receptors. So iodine becomes a really big player in assisting the detox and freeing up the receptors. So another reason why to take iodine. What are some of the other things? Iodine just doesn't play a role in the thyroid. What are some of the other reasons why you would say iodine's important?
Yeah, it's critical in mammary tissue. There's a number of enzymes that utilize it in
What's
the mammary
tissue?
Yeah, in breast tissue. Yeah. So, again, for women, this is another biohack for women. You have to have enough iodine there. And again, we want to bring our pools up.
So often
then
maintain
maintain
cysts
them.
in the breasts are from a lack of
From
iodine.
lack of iodine, yeah. Remember, a lot of these, what we call minerals and or these halogens, they're either incorporated into molecules in your body or they're used to make other important things. They become a catalyst or not the energy, but you can't have electricity without metal for it to flow through. These types of compounds bridge the gap. Yeah, they bridge the gap to allow you to make things.
Yeah.
So if you can't make them, and they also bind to receptors themselves. These iodine and, like you said, can bind, and metals can bind to receptors.
Right.
Potassium iodide, which is one of the ingredients here, is another biohack, is people that think they're exposed to radiation.
Right.
Potassium iodide is the compound you would take to prevent radioactive isotopes from binding to those same receptors.
Yep.
So people, right after Fukushima, in Japan, were consuming potassium iodide.
Well, if I get an X-ray, I load up on iodine that day.
because
As a matter of fact, days I
prevents-
fly, even in an airplane, you get more radiation flying.
You do.
Than
You
even
do.
most exposures
because you're
that
out of
people
our
are worried
atmosphere.
about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so
iodine
that's
is
a little biohack. Now that's not a long-term use. That's just an acute. Take it, get a dose into you, and then ease off after you're done flying. Right.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I do all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 more. I think without saying, the adrenal glands, oftentimes people need more adrenal support. When you're detoxing, adaptation and the help for adaptation, really the adrenals get under fire. But why else would it be good to take some extra GA throughout the process?
It's true, and I'm a stress person. I have to monitor my stress as well as anybody does, right? And so you're producing a lot of hormones and you're in this fight or flight all the time. And that has consequences on your diet, has consequences on your microbiome, which clearly then leads to consequences to the other endocrine system, right? This is critical. And then, of course, these guys take their directive from the hypothalamus and the pituitary, and there's a feedback mechanism. So if you're stressed, those guys don't get their signals, and you're just in this death spiral, so to speak.
Yep.
So I'm all about stress for the adrenal. Right?
Yep.
I take that more often than I even know I need it. I take that consistently.
Yeah, and when I travel, again, it's I take GF and GA,
exactly.
Which I think is a great combination. And by the way, both of them help me adapt to time zones. So and a little bit of dream, because the melatonin is another trick. See, we're just giving all the biohacks.
Yeah.
So
and it's not even when we're detoxing. These are even more critical when you're detoxing,
absolutely.
right? Because
that's the point.
These guys are taking the hit when your toxins are being taken care of, and when you're stressing your system out. You gotta stay. You're right. If you start to lose your energy, both emotional and physical, you can't continue the detox, and then people quit.
Bad idea.
And it's a bad idea.
I just snuck out one of my other biohacks. Is another thing. It's not on the table, but dream.
Oh yeah.
Is that how we say it?
Yeah, or DREAM. Some people say
DREAM,
DREAM, but it's really dream.
Yeah. But anyway, dream. The melatonin. One of the the areas that gets really hit, that's outside the blood-brain barrier, actually is the pineal gland. And a little bit of melatonin is a trick that I used when I was detoxing all the time. Obviously, neurotoxic people have trouble sleeping, so it's a good idea all the time. But on cycles, when I'm detoxing, I always took a little bit of melatonin to support the pineal gland. And so another little biohack.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because the pineal gland is an underappreciated gland.
Yeah. Well,
and I experimented with dream, believe it or not, recently. I was getting calls in a systemic saying, hey, I'm up to 50 milligrams of melatonin a night. And I'm thinking, 50?
Yeah, you're shutting your body off.
50, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So I experimented.
That had to be hard on the liver anyway.
Yeah, so I experimented. I started off with I think our product has 2.5, and then I did 5, and then I did 10 the different nights, and I got up to about 35. And what I can tell you is when you get up to those levels, I slept worse than when I backed it back down to anywhere from 2 to, let's say, 15, at least for me.
Well, actually,
so biohack yourself,
You find out where you're at. But those higher levels can actually be stressful with thyroid. I don't remember the biochemistry there.
I was surprised at how much people get up to, because they stay on this threshold, or they stay on it, right? And your body builds these thresholds. Instead of cycling, they need to cycle melatonin
and then the
as well.
other point is, and I could get you off on a tangent here, I won't let him. Anyways, but the point is though, melatonin is one aspect, but there's a whole herbaloma component.
We have a whole herbaloma component in dream.
In dream, it's more than just melatonin, so leave it at that.
It's true, we use kava, we use a lot of things that are calming, valerian,
the flower, anyway, I'm
but again, it's passion flower, but it speaks to that idea that rotate, because even on dream for a while.
I don't stay on it.
That's right.
Exactly.
I have to rotate it in and out. And then your lifestyle, you have to make sure you shut off the electronics.
And lastly, one of the things we get is, why don't you have more liver in the process? The liver's so important. Again, the pill is, as we progress, we're trying to basically evaluate what becomes more important, right? And liver. This is oftentimes something that we add extra. You can add extra liver throughout the process for obvious reasons. I don't know. I
tell people to add liver when they're, they like to have a cocktail every night. There's other stressors on the liver, when it's working hard in other areas. Not that that's a bad thing, but liver can help in a number of ways. Yeah.
So add extra. All right, there's our biohacks, and I know it's going to help, because this was you all wanted this for a long time, so we finally brought it. We just had to get our eggheads together.
And we tried to stay focused.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we did. Yeah. All right. Listen, we'll see you on the next webcast. Remember this: fix the cell to get well. In this case, detox the cell to get well.